Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Battle Spirits Saga Vegas launch event finals. I'm one of your cast, Espira, joined by my amazing co-cast, Eggman. Egg, how are you doing today?
I am good. I am ready to see this finals and see what went down.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to see an amazing white control deck in Austin Summers. Been piling it, white been being one of those decks that a lot of people weren't too sure about, but has been slowly gaining ground and been a huge impact on this tournament versus the red aggro deck that I think no one was ready for. And it's going to be the real thing to see, the slowest deck in the format versus the most blazing fast deck in the format.
For sure. I'd say like Terrorsaur is a deck that not a lot of people were really on. It was like a splash into some Nova decks, but it got a fourth of the tops for this top 32 and made it all the way to the finals. So I'm really excited to see what takes it out in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. So without further ado, let's jump into the matchup. All right, and the players are jumping here with Alex actually being on the play, which is really, really pivotal when it comes to these aggro decks. You want to be the first to get your reductions on the board. You want to be able to apply pressure very quickly. So not the best turn one play here for Alex, but getting a good, solid attacker in case Austin ends up putting down a Pegasione, then should be able to fight over it if he wants to do that.
Yeah, that card has a lot of reductions. So normally you like to play it when you have a little bit more stuff on the board, but there is one of those on the other side, and looks like we're just passing it right back to Alex there.
Yeah, and this is actually probably the perfect turn one play here for our white player, just because it has that armor red, so it's going to prevent removal from being able to hit into it. And then going into its level 2 and 3, will be able to block multiple things if Alex tries to go wide. So really forcing Alex to go big here. Those two burning forces here seeing unfortunately stuck in Alex's hand. So a bit of a slower hand for sure, and doesn't line up well with the horse on the board at the moment.
All right, well, swing in there, and we'll see. It does get the boost there with its abilities there, so it does get a bit of a chunky attack, and it looks like decided to take the life there instead of having to lose the card on board.
Yeah, I think the blocker is pretty valuable early on. And it just because it gets your reductions going, and once you get all 5 cores on it, it pretty much blocks almost anything that Alex will have the way. So Austin definitely prioritizing just having the board for the long game versus kind of the very early pressure.
For sure, yeah, and getting another attack in there, so already down to 3 life. And reminders in this game, when you lose all of your cores in life, the game is over. So only 3 life left there to continue in this game.
Mm-hmm. And here we go. All of the cores on the Pegasione here, meaning that it'll be able to block anything that has 2 cores or less. So definitely slowing it down. It'll have a really beefy stat line of 7k as well. And this is basically Austin's line of defense for the next couple of turns, most likely. Just how long can this hold? And then for Alex, the question here is, can I find something big enough to beat over it? Gigano Rex being the biggest thing that he's probably digging for at this point in time.
Yeah, and well, that's going to be a little bit tricky to play right now, specifically because the Dragron Trooper is a Dragonoid, so it doesn't get the reduction for the Giganorex. But it may be possible if you want to get rid of it, but kind of a costly decision if you decide to go with it.
Yep, absolutely. And digging, we are seeing here. So the Starblast Draw, probably one of the most pivotal cards throughout the entire tournament. We see it in everything. I think 35 copies in top 32, which is absolutely nuts. And now we're going into the Scorched Land here, which should be able to help Alex fight through the blockers and eventually, hopefully, draw some cards.
For sure. It's obviously a little bit better when your opponent has a couple more cards in life to get some more draw. But honestly, the plus 1k on everything is pretty strong as well, especially if you have kind of a beefy blocker that we see on Austin's side.
And here we see the Rocket City, which, funny enough, the getting the Scorched Battlefield can help the red deck fight through, but here the Rocket City will help defensively in terms of giving that extra 1k buff. But it does give a Burning Force target. So there is a chance in which Alex might be spending his turn just getting rid of that. And I think we're looking for a game where we're going to be pushing in for the long haul.
Yeah, but I dislike seeing that Rocket City on the opponent's side. I would totally Burning Force as well. So deciding that, and I think something to pick up on is that he put the Soul Core on the Rocket City, and I think that means to me that either he knows that the Rocket City is going to go away, or he could have potentially a suppression in hand, which would need that Soul Core anyway to pay the cost, and he'd rather pay the cost off of the Nexus instead of the Spirit there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that I've definitely learned, and I'm sure a lot of players have learned, is kind of the management of cores and where they go. Not only thinking about where your cores go while the game is progressing, but where do they go as things happen during the battle step.
Mhm.
Ice Shield needs to take the core from the reserve. So if your opponent's attacking with something that trashes instead of deals damage directly to reserve, you want to have one stored back there or something of the sort, right? So, like you said, suppression, you're going to need to spend the soul core. Definitely something that we could see here, but it does look like we're going to be taking the double 2 damage and going down to 2.
Yeah. So one damage was blocked with the block, but the Beard Eagle was able to take a damage, which means you did get a draw off the Scorched Battlefield, down to 2 life, and it looks, how much do you think this Pegazone can hold? But we do see the big boy elephant. This is Mecha Beast Fortress Numengard coming down. What a beast of a card.
Yeah, absolutely pivotal. I think this is the card that single-handedly brings white together. It is a big, beefy blocker, which is absolutely massive.
Mhm.
It can allow you to go aggressive on its level 2 because you'll get your refresh step, which means you can attack and then still have blockers afterwards. And if it gets dealt with, which now Austin actually has a plan versus the Gigano Rex if it ever shows up, you'll actually end up drawing 3 cards and ramping by 3, which will allow you to dig into more defensive shop options after that. So the Pegasione by itself, not too sure. Backed by a mammoth, absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, 100%. And being able to use it as a block, and like it just says you cannot play Confront anymore on your Giganorex, because then you are giving Austin's 3 card draw, 3 extra cores, and that is something that White would love. Card draw in White is pretty rare, so if you get it, you get it. But looking at the hand for Alex, nothing too crazy in there, nothing too big there. And we're seeing that he is pretty behind on cores too, because he's still at 5 life as well.
Yeah, that's the thing when it comes to battle spirits, is the fact that you can tempo out your opponent, but remember that you're ramping them by doing so. And then you're
Mhm.
allowing that comeback mechanic of them being able to play bigger, more powerful cards, which going down to 2 life is what's actually allowed the Nomen Guard play here to go. And it's forcing Alex to go wide. There is a play in which you can use a low-cost Confronter without a lot of BP to force the Nomen Guard to block, but not proc off its when destroyed, because it'll just end up not being able to match up on the offense. And then you're able to kind of go under it. But it's very tough when you have backups of the like of, Pexione and other white cards that are probably going to come right after this.
Yeah, so we'll see what the answer is there with 2 of the Beard Eagles. Having the attack on 1 just means that when it gets if it gets removed, you do get the additional benefit of our Dino Man as well, because there are the 2 spirits on there now, and we'll have to see what else. Yeah, making sure, counting how many cores are in the core trash there as well.
Yeah, I like the sequencing a lot. This is really skillful from Alex. Throughout the entire tournament, especially when you're playing with Dino Man, it's just how can I force my board to get the amount of attacks I want through while still accounting for specifically how many spirits are on my board so I can get the boost. So very smart play here, but the suppression gonna do a lot here.
Yeah. Suppression is 1,000%. Like it is sometimes just a turn ender a lot of the time, and it looks like that's what it is here. It's something that really I found out during the day. Like, man, this really just turns off my entire turn if I don't play around it. It is such a strong card.
Yeah, it's incredibly powerful. I've seen it being claimed as absolute ice shield copies,
Hmm.
5 through 8, which it absolutely is that. And if not better sometimes, because, timing it well without your opponent accounting for it, they're just losing their board.
Yep. And now comes up the next kind of piece in the white game plan. We do have our big guy. This is Armored Dragon Ship Enterprise, which is pretty good at giving armor to everything. This is a complete red deck on the other side, so armor for everything there. And now we have 3 chunky blockers that we're gonna have a hard time to get around.
Yeah, Enterprise is such a pivotal card in this white deck because obviously red and purple are in mass here in terms of what is seeing play. So much so that it sees play in other decks. I've seen yellow decks main deck
Mhm.
Enterprise. I've seen red decks main deck Enterprise. So it's incredibly powerful and kind of leads into these like nutty boards. And looks like we're just kind of looking through here. And yeah, no, I think this is the concession from Alex. So game one going to Austin Summers.
Yeah, that is insane that we are already getting into that game number two. Just saying, you know what, I don't have a way to get across this board. You are too set up for me, and something that I think every deck was playing Absolute Ice Shield, but maybe in something where you're not as facing against something so slow, maybe it's something you don't run at four of in a match like this.
Yeah, it's interesting in which I think Alex, that Ice Shield is so powerful that you do run four, and Alex runs four. But there is a question here to be like, I actually just need to be faster. Like my opponent's playing the control variant. I actually just need every single draw to be live so I can go as hard as I can. I mean, we even saw to a point where he wasn't afraid to sacrifice off a body or two if it meant he could chip in one more damage, right? Austin was at 2. Pushing him to 1 would mean that effectively every single spirit Alex would have at that point basically has confront. So it forces these game situations. So I totally agree. I think there's a world in which maybe I should you just gotta sub him out because your opponent's not going to attack you. He's going to run you out of resources and then eventually slow you down. So just kind of punch through that.
Yeah, 100%. Because that's just 2 dead cards in hand. That could have been something better for the scenario, or help you push up, a little bit more damage. But looks like they're just deciding on these sideboards. Obviously, I think both players have played these matchups throughout the weekend, so hopefully a little bit solidified for what they want to move in, and they have access to each other's deck list. But we'll have to see what their calls are.
Yep, absolutely. Open deck list is definitely going to tighten up what they're able to bring in, what they think they should bring in. So we'll just have to see kind of what options, how ready both players are for each deck, right? I do know that Austin's got a couple of additional aggro prevention pieces in the sideboard, which would help a lot. Alex has the ability to go a little bit faster. So
yeah, but right there, Austin, has poor defensive options, I think, too, to say, here is specifically a defensive card for our matchup here, and maybe that can help them get that, another concession on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. So these players are going to shuffle it up real quick, and sure we'll be jumping into our second game shortly. Okay, and we're jumping into game 2 of the finals. Austin Summers up 1 versus Alex Blandon here. Alex will be going first and will need to set the gas. Volcanic Canyon is a wonderful start to allow him to fix his hand early, get those early reductions, and hopefully be able to push in for an early aggro.
Yeah, just like last game where I said, like, I hate to see when a Rocket City's on my opponent's side. I also hate a Volcanic Canyon. Just like at turn 1, like let's say the game goes like 10 turns, that is an additional 10 cards you get to cycle just for having this Nexus out.
Yeah, it's so good. And the fact that you get the BP bump on just 1 core afterwards is so significant. It is so good for card quality. It is so good. I don't think, be careful about running 2 or 3 because you can't mill yourself out. I've gotten extremely close based on my Nexus selection, but it can do a ton for you. And alternatively, here, Austin actually seeing is one of the Fortress here can actually massively speed up the ability at which Austin will be able to put out threats here. So if that gets to stick another turn, we could see a scary turn of Enterprises or Elks or even Omen Guards, depending on how much Alex aggro's here. So we'll see. And pitching away the Star Blast. Wow, deciding, you know what, it's not a card advantage thing right now. I just need to go fast.
Yeah, and that Fortress Metropolis is such a good like target for the to get bopped. But if it stays on the board, like you said, you're in a really good position to get a lot of value throughout it. And it looks like it's going to not stay. Yeah.
Yeah, looks like that's getting Burning Force, which honestly is probably the best play here. Obviously, it's a little bit slower from Alex, but the ability to just say, you know what, no, actually, you're going to start your next turn with 0 reductions. You basically pass your turn. When it comes back to me, I'm going to have my 2 reductions on board still and be able to pressure. Yeah, so I think it's definitely the right call here to prevent a blowout card, because we do see the Elk in hand. If the Elk came through this turn, that would be a very hard point for Alex to try to fight through.
It sure would. And like, whenever I see these lists, I'm like, why don't they run more? And it's because people run at Burning Force as much as they do. But
yeah,
at the same time, if you are making your opponent's turn 2 be almost only doing Burning Force, I still think the card kind of did what it needed to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, this said, hey, you need to spend 3 cores dealing with my Nexus that like actually wasn't doing anything. It was presenting a threat, but by itself wasn't really doing anything. And now it's I slowed down your tempo. I basically gained a turn almost, depending on what my defensive options are. So yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it can lend itself pretty good depending on what we see here.
All right, getting rid of a Dino Man. So, but to me, it just means like he has enough of the low to the ground tools. He doesn't need the big 6K swing from this guy, but we'll see what the choice are. We have 2 Spirit and Nexus up, so you do have 2 reduction on red, which is quite a lot, all things considered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's more than this deck needs. I mean, this deck caps out at so many free bodies. We're seeing here the Oviraptidons in hand, which actually have done a phenomenal amount. So much so that Nova decks actually pivoted from using Rain Needle to Oviraptidon because including that Pterosaur package is just so seamless, and it has the exact same stat lines as Rain Needle. Now, this deck does run both, but
Yes.
just to say that this could line up to be a really good board for Gigano Rex if Alex can draw into it.
And also giving everything plus 1K thanks to your Nexus there, the Volcanic Canyon. So these are going to be some beefy spirits attacking in. Now, there's nothing on the opponent's side of the board either, so you shouldn't be too worried about anything. But this could potentially knock Austin down to just 1 core left in life.
Yeah, depending on what he has. And this is where Alex is thinking, right? He's like,
yeah.
Do I go hyper wide? Do I force it to have to be just that? And it looks like that might be what he's calling out here. And this is the situation in which aggro players put themselves in. It's like, okay, well, do I do it?
Yeah, exactly. Do it. Is it my turn to just win, right? Like, and you know the control player on the other side is like, please don't do that. You have to have the poker face, but looks like he's going a little nervous with those legs as well. We'll see what happens.
Ooh, and yeah, it's the Dream Bomb.
It's the Dream Bomb.
Wow, so
not want that.
No, but going wide was the right decision here, at least in terms of, hey, he didn't have the Ice Shield. I can still force him to a position of having 1 life, which is huge because now he bursted Ice Shield won't get him down. So the fact that you forced him to have it means you can put him in a very uncomfortable position now being at 1, which makes defending that much harder because you can't rely on the burst of a Absolute Ice Shield.
Correct. Yeah. So you are close from getting this game and forcing a game number 3. So we have to see what the decision for Austin is. But you do have your Nexus out there that does have the reduction. You do have a bunch of cores available as well. So let's see what you get to do with them.
Yeah, a lot of options. You have your 1 reduction. It just needs something that can deal with wide. This helps a lot. On block, it'll be able to bounce 2 costs or less. So it should stave off some of the aggro. It counts basically as a 2-for-1 at that point, tempo-wise. Just need to see a couple of more things here from Austin's side to see if he's able to stave off a go wide once again.
Yeah, it bounces anything with confront or curse that snowflake, but that's something that's pretty prevalent in a lot of cards. Confront mostly for Alex's deck, so we'll have to see if any of those come down.
Yeah. I was thinking of Leo Mail was the one. It's the sideboard card you bring in for the matchup. Yeah. But no, the Snowflaking helps mostly versus the Gigano is kind of the big confront body for here. So if you see Gigano, it can actually bounce it, which is very funny.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you're just like a 3-cost spirit just bouncing back like an 8-cost for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty cruel. So it looks like you're set up to do enough damage again without any interaction. We'll see if what the decision is here.
Yep. We could see a block into an Absolute Ice Shield. We could see a suppression. There's a few things we can see here. This seems a little bit doom and gloom here for Austin, but the board is just small enough that he might be able to break through it. Yep.
And no Ice Shield there. That's pretty impactful.
Yep. That's saying, okay, can I beat through a suppression? Is there anything here, or is the red deck going to do the red deck thing?
And we'll have to see if suppression, because you want to attack, right? But then if you attack, you give them a free removal. But yeah, you're going to have to force them to have it. You're going to use suppression. Yeah.
Never not have it, but you have to force it, right? Like there's no world in which you don't be like, because and that's the thing that I think a lot of players are coming accustomed to in terms of the game is that you have to force them to have it, because if not, they had it without having it. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, and I think still hitting down to 1, even though it gives them so much cores to work with, just means that you kind of invalidate a free Ice Shield, which is kind of nice. You have to force them into a situation where it can happen. But it looks like we did see the Pegasone there, put a bunch of cores to beef it up as well, and setting up that control.
Yeah, this is definitely the board you want to see. The Pegasone here definitely mitigates the go wide now, right? The biggest scary part here is if my red opponent plays 4 bodies, am I going to be able to break through? But we do finally see the Gigano here Unfortunately, the Snowflake can being like the perfect answer to
Yeah,
it right now.
yeah, it's so unfortunate. So, deciding to keep the ice shield in hand as well. Oh, and what do we have? Yeah, we do have that in hand too. We do have the big boy. It's the dual gun Mechlord Derm Dyna, which you
Hmm.
can use that to prevent your opponent from blocking, but it's also since it's off color, you're going to have to spend a lot of cores to get it up there.
Yeah, I think that's might be one of the reasons why we saw the ice shield stick. I think Alex here recognizing that, like, hey, my opponent's at 1. I just need to get
Hmm.
1 through. So
Hmm.
hold on to the late game. Wait a couple of turns until I can get enough cores to be able to Derm Dyna, and hopefully he can fight through. And Derm Dyna is amazing against these white decks. Generally, the only real way you can deal with it is Dream Bomb.
Hmm.
So if Alex can find an in with Derm Dyna, it's going to be very, very scary.
For sure. Yeah, just if your entire opponent's deck is, block my attacks and then they can't block anymore, you have your in.
Hmm. Yeah, so the way the sequencing would work, typically you would want Gigano to swing first because the Snowflaken would be able to bounce it. But because there is a non-Pterosaur Emperor Beast on the board at the moment, it does not
Mm-hmm.
have Confront, so you can actually sneak through an additional attack than you typically would
Hmm.
based on the Snowflaken being here. So this is some pretty neat sequencing here from Alex.
Yeah, even though this is like an aggro deck, you do have like some your capabilities to have some of this creative ways to deal damage or to get around effects. And now that you're back up to your Giganorex, you do have the effects again, so you do have to be a little bit careful with that. But I do like the sequencing there.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. It's between the Gigano Rex, it's the Dino Man, same kind of situation in which, like,
Hmm.
can I attack in a way that'll get my board down to 2, so then he can go back to a level 3. So there's a there is definitely a lot of sequencing, and that's the biggest thing with aggro decks. It's mostly generally the issue isn't so much about seeing the right cards. Sometimes it is, obviously, but it's
Hmm.
more so just how can I sequence these cards in the right way to force my opponent to play into my win for the most part.
Yeah, and I think the only thing is I may have wanted to see, and maybe the sequencing couldn't have gone there, but if you would have attacked with the Overraptidon first and then
Hmm.
with your other card, it would have had 2 attacks without your big guy having confront.
Correct. Yeah, and then you could have definitely forced it through there. Nomen Guard's gonna make this tough. The perfect
Yeah.
answer to Gigano is 100% Nomen Guard because it'll get you the cores you need for your defensive cards. It'll get you the card draw if you don't have it. So this is definitely blowing away. And Alex is now definitely on the dual gun plan, 100%.
Yeah, that's the plan I'd be on in this point, and just be like, you know what? There are 2 counters to confront on the other side of that board. I gotta try a different route.
Yeah, especially given that, like, White's removal for dual gun is more of a tempo play than actual removal, right? Dream
Mhm.
Bomb will bounce back to hand. So if Austin is able to bounce the dual gun once it hits the board, it'll just be a number about, okay, well then I'll try again next turn. Okay, well then I'll try again next turn, and then to hopefully eventually get there.
Yeah, and it's definitely a case of do you have it? And that is the question he seems to be
Woo!
posing. You know what? We're going in. We're going to pay the cost. Do you have a dream bomb in hand? You sure do. Oh, that is unfortunate for Alex,
Uh,
but very very fortunate for Austin there.
Yeah, this clock is insane now because it's all about, hey, you know exactly what I'm doing next turn. You know exactly what I'm doing the turn after that. Are you gonna be able to
Hmm.
stop that? It's
Yep.
this is incredibly, I love this is super funny just on the notion that it's like, you know what I'm about to do every turn. Can you
Yep.
stop it?
100%. And it looks like Alex is trying to contain his excitement. He really wants to get this game, and we do see the elk for the first time in this match. Very very strong for keeping it on the defensive end, and but that might not be what Austin's wanting to do.
Yeah, it's a and we do see another dream bomb in
Oh my
hand.
gosh,
Oh
that
my,
is.
but Elka does two things here in that if he can prevent the damage from Alex, it'll actually speed up his clock, Austin's
Mhm.
clock, which means that he'll be able to close out the game quicker. So he can, like, go through with, like, if he wanted to, he could go through with everything here.
Yeah.
So it all depends, but basically he can play defensive and still have the ability to burn down Alex and get him out of that bursted ice shield. So
Yeah. So, but I don't. This kind of just is forcing. You know what? one, I guess it forces the ice shield, right? But with the
Yeah.
Newman Guard effect there, getting everything back up, you're on your own clock now. We're both, 1-2 cores each apiece, and he's asking, do you have it? And he sure does. Asking for the game, and there he gives it to him.
Dream bomb for the game, saying nope, you have the out. Absolutely insane. Austin having the two piece on that removal that actually allows him to break through. That's nuts, dude.
That is completely insane. Congratulations to Austin for being our winner for this North American launch event. 100% win rate for North American tournaments, and we'll have to see if he keeps that up in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Just showing that, like, while yes, the early game for white can be tough, if you just put all your eggs into the really solid early defensive cards and then break through into the insane top end between the Noman Guard and the Elks and everything like that, you can definitely push through, even against what some would argue is maybe one of your worst matchups. I think outside of yellow, red aggro can definitely just get there before white even has the chance to do anything. So absolutely amazing. But honestly, amazing piloting on both ends. Alex showing us that sequencing with the deck can make all the difference. And there's a bunch of different edges that you can find in there in your matchups. But what an absolutely fantastic finals.
For sure. Yeah, really happy to be able to see it, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Hopefully just a little preview of what's to come in the future of this competitive season. But man, what a great game to watch.
Yes, absolutely. And with that, of course, you guys won't want to go anywhere. This is just the launch events. There is so much more down the pipeline as we get closer to the release of the game. It is just exciting to see what the future holds. If even before anyone had full access to the cards beforehand, this is the level of competition we're seeing. So I'm ever so excited for that.
Yeah, definitely excited to see what people decide to change, make their own, and it should be very exciting.
Yep, absolutely. So with that, of course, I am Espira. Join me with my wonderful co-host, Eggman, and we will catch you all in the next one.